Hello everyone, this is Caster. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over myths and misconceptions about DID. If you haven't already seen the first video we made about this topic, go ahead and check that out. There will be a link in the description for that video. Also, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, as we will be making some videos going more in depth into some of the myths that we brush upon in part 1 and part 2 of the video, and you won't want to miss that. So without any further ado, let's get into these myths. DID is an excuse for attention. All disorders, including physical illnesses, will have groups of people that will pretend to have them. That being said, it has been found that there are no more cases of DID malingering, and maybe even less than that of other illness malingering. Studies have found the rate of fictitious dissociative disorders to be between 2 to 14%, whereas the general rates of malingering range from 7 to 17%. All of this being said, DID is an incredibly stigmatized, complex disorder, and it would be incredibly tiring to attempt to convincingly fake or use as an excuse for attention. As stated by the awesome blog Beauty After Bruises, there are far easier, more believable, more profitable, and more rewarding conditions to fake for attention or garner sympathy than DID. The idea that because a very small portion of the population has claimed to have a disorder that they don't, a practice that is unfortunately all too common and done in regards to most disorders, that because of this all people with DID must be faking, is very damaging and just incredibly false. It's ideas and stigmas like this that keep survivors from seeking help and treatment when they need it, and that we need to work on dispelling. Alters are all just variations on the host. Alters in a DID system can be any age, race, sexual orientation, gender, personality, political leaning, regardless of that of the host or the body. In fact, part of the diagnostic criteria state that the individual personalities and identities must have their own individual, enduring pattern of perceiving, relating to, and thinking about the environment and themselves. I saw this well stated in an article saying that personality differentiation is a hallmark of the disorder, and without it, it is not DID. Now, all this being said, it's not uncommon for alters within a system to have similarities in interests and appearances. If you were to take 15 random people off the street, how many of them would have brown hair? How many of them would like the same popular TV show? How many of them would dress in a similar manner? The same can be thought of alters within a system. There can be similarities even if they aren't exactly the same. Individuals with DID only have a small number of alters. Every system is different. Some systems may only have a small number of alters, but usually it's most common for it to be somewhere in the teens. Additionally, it is very common for systems to start out only being aware of a very small number of alters, but through treatment become aware that there is, in fact, a larger and sometimes much larger number of alters in their system than they originally believed. Systems in the 30s and 40s are not uncommon, and they can even be in the hundreds. That being said, I want to reiterate something very important that I saw recently. System size does not invalidate or validate the survivor. There's also no direct correlation to the system size and the severity of the trauma. This quote I thought was very important because I want to reiterate that you are valid regardless of the size of your system, regardless of how many alters you're aware of. Whether you have 2 or 200, you are valid. People with DID are violent. You can thank Hollywood and just the general population for this one. But honestly, survivors with DID are no more likely to be violent than members of the general public. The crime rate among individuals with DID is no greater than, and often less than, the general population, and they have very low levels of incarceration. Additionally, due to their history of exposures to trauma and violence, individuals with DID are far more likely than the general population to be re-victimized and experience trauma and violence again, and are at a high risk of repeatedly attempting suicide and self-harming behaviors, with over 70% of individuals with DID having attempted suicide. DID can be, and often is, used as an excuse to get away with crimes. Unlike in movies and TV, people don't just go around claiming to have DID to get away with crimes. For one thing, it would be very easy to prove if someone did or did not actually have DID, and secondly, and most importantly, DID is not a viable defense in a court of law. If an individual does in fact have DID, regardless of what one alter does outside of the awareness of others, the whole system is responsible for any crimes committed, as they are only recognized as one legal individual and they will be prosecuted accordingly. If someone were to use DID as a defense, it would not work, and DID is not insanity. Misrepresentations of DID in the media are fine because people can tell that they are fiction. A research study done by the University of Melbourne concluded that pervasive negative portrayals can have harmful effects, perpetuating the stigma associated with mental illness and reducing the likelihood that those with mental illness will seek help. DID is rarely portrayed even closely to correctly in the media. Those with the disorder are either portrayed as comical or sociopathic villains. Only a few accounts have correctly portrayed that the disorder is caused by childhood trauma, and rarely do the portrayals show the amount of suffering that individuals with DID go through. Also, I'm sorry about the birds. There are a lot of really loud birds. I don't know if this microphone is picking them up, but they're very, very loud, and I'm sorry. Oh my god. This is ridiculous. And rarely is it properly portrayed the amount of suffering that individuals with DID go through on their day-to-day lives. There have also been many representations of DID that were mislabeled as being representations of schizophrenia, a completely different disorder. These inaccurate representations of DID severely damage the public's understanding of DID and those living with the condition. And the stigma that comes from the spread of this misinformation discourages those with the disorder from seeking help. Individuals with DID can never be aware of what their alters do and cannot communicate with them. Although some degree of amnesia is expected in DID and is required by the diagnostic criteria to be diagnosed, many individuals with the disorder can remain co-conscious with at least some of their alters, which is where two or more alters are aware of each other and or the outside world at the same time. Many individuals learn to communicate internally with their alters, and many also have internal worlds in which their alters can also communicate. However, many systems still rely on external forms of communication, such as journaling or leaving notes or communicating through a trusted third party such as a therapist or a trusted friend. This all being said, once receiving a diagnosis and beginning therapy, the path to healing relies on establishing solid communication as a system. DID systems cannot have monogamous relationships. Once again, every system is different. What one individual or one system or one alter does is not representative of every individual with DID, just as what one singlet does is not representative of every singlet. Survivors with DID tend to be more concerned with simply finding a stable, healthy relationship with someone who will accept them and their system. Non-human alters are impossible. Actually, non-human alters are very common in individuals with DID. It's important to remember that alters do not come about by conscious choice or planning, and oftentimes it's the mind of a traumatized child that is deciding what is needed to survive the situation that they are being faced with. And there are usually reasons behind whatever non-human alter forms, either related to the form of the abuse itself or what is needed in the child's mind to survive the abuse. Persecutors are bad and should be gotten rid of. As backwards as it may seem, persecutor alters who harm themselves in the body are usually doing so for a reason. In their heads, they often believe that their actions are keeping them safe. The blog Beauty After Bruises explains the actions of persecutors in a very precise, understandable way that I wanted to have in here in its unedited form. It's important to keep in mind that just because these things may not make sense to you, since you can clearly see all the destruction and harm it's causing elsewhere in life, they aren't working from the same information, life experiences, or emotional connections to the world as you. If you were locked into dissociative barriers for years, only able to pull from a select number of life experiences, most that were utterly horrifying, you might not be the most empathetic or understanding person either. Moreover, many system members adopted their concepts of safety when the body was a child, a traumatized child. What they consider safe isn't always going to make sense. Ignoring them, trying to shut them up or restrain them, punish them, or any of the various attempts at getting rid of them will not only never work, their needs will only become louder and greater, they'll become more and more traumatized as you confirm to them their every belief about the world. You can't actually get rid of them anyways, so it's far better to try and understand them. Beauty After Bruises is an amazing blog, and I definitely recommend checking them out. I'll leave a link to their website in the description below. Well, that does it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If there are any other crazy myths about DID or mental illness that you've heard, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear about them. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Check out the description below for links to our Instagram and website where we have a lot of great resources about DID. I'll also leave in the description resources that we used for filming this video. A lot of really great resources about DID and information. If you wanted to leave us a like and share this video, that would be greatly appreciated. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, have a good one, and we'll see you next time.